Program is sponsored by Dave Stahl. It's time to get educated on your Second Amendment rights. Welcome to 2 full hours of Gun Owners Radio. Your hosts, Dave Stahl, Joe Germisi, and Michael Schwartz, will teach you about firearms, self-defense, and the laws that affect your rights to keep and bear arms. Visit gunownersradio.com with questions to learn how to become a sponsor of Gun Owners Radio and get involved. Together, we will win. Now here's your hosts, Dave Stahl, Joe Germisi, and Michael Schwartz on The Answer San Diego.
All right, folks, welcome to Gun Owners Radio, FM 96.1, AM 1170.
The Answer.
The man is back. Hey, criminals don't follow any high-capacity magazine limits.
No, they don't.
Criminals aren't restricted to the guns on the California gun roster.
Preach it.
They also don't follow a 10-day waiting period.
No, they do not.
So why should you? Well, gun control laws just make it harder for law-abiding citizens to protect themselves. What can you do about it? Hey, join a Second Amendment activist group like San Diego County Gun Owners.
Yeah.
SDCGO makes activism easy. Working together, we're getting more pro-gun officials elected. Join today at San Diego County GunOwners.com. Go to San Diego County GunOwners.com and join today.
Join today, everybody. Yeah. We're well over 3,000 members and growing. And
we're
we have
over 3,000 now?
Over 3. I think we're closing in on 3,200.
Jeez Louise. By the way, I got a cute story. So this buddy of mine lives here in San Diego. He went to Tennessee to work with Nissan.
Yeah.
And he goes, hey, Dave, he says, what's it take to get a gun out here? And I told him. And he goes, oh, I said, what's it take to get a gun in Tennessee? Well, first you go in the store, then you pick out a gun, then you give them your driver's license, and you give them the money, and you leave.
15 minutes later, you're out the door after a Instagram background check.
So I just told him I hated him. And I says, and if Glock decides to change a gun to purple, then we have to take 3 off the roster to get that antiquated gun on the roster.
Well, if we can even get it on.
Well, if they even allow it,
If they're even able to get it on, which, with that stupid microstamp doesn't exist, they're not even able to do that.
Oh, my gosh.
So help us join today. Help us fight all this stuff. And then, of course, come to Gun Prom.
It's going to be a hoot.
Dude, Gun Prom's right around the corner, everybody. It's like a month away. So go to gunprom.com. Get your tickets, just $99.
My wife's selling puppies this weekend, so I'll be able to pay you.
Okay, cool.
I'm going to make her pay me.
What are they, wiener dogs?
No, Rotties.
Rotties?
Oh, they're amazing. He's got, they're something, they're possessed. You put the dish down, and 5 of them, if you're in the area, they'll eat you.
Just get out of the way.
Oh, I've never seen anything like it.
It's like, they'll just mow you down. They'll step over your dead body to get to their puppy chow.
And buy a table too, folks, because that way you can invite people to the party that maybe have never been or don't know anything about guns or would like to know about guns. I think the table idea is the best idea.
It is. The wine table, it's 8 people. You just get 7 of your friends. Everybody pitches in. You get a better table. You get wine with your meal. Or if you go champagne table, so the wine table is $1,600 for 8. A champagne table is $3,000 for 8. But that $3,000, you get $5,000. You get a $5,000 raffle ticket package with that.
You told me you only got 8 tickets.
You get 8 seats.
Yeah,
but you get a $5,000 raffle ticket package.
Now you tell me
with the champagne table.
Yeah, so I already beat you up on the price on the champagne table. Now I'm going to go. All right, that's cool. Because I'm just going to give tickets to all the guests.
There you go.
As a bonus. I'm not charging anybody. I'm just going to. Yeah. I just want to do it because we got to get more and more people.
Yep.
To these parties.
Yeah, and I mean, and we're yes, and it's a good time, it's a good cause, it's a lot of fun. There's going to be a lot of elected officials and community leaders, there'll be speakers there, and it'll be a lot of fun. So go to gunprom.com, buy your ticket, help organize a table, or just buy your individual tickets.
Right.
And it's nice enough this is date night, guys. So bring your wife.
Yeah.
It's a nice enough event.
Dress as you like,
or dress up.
Yeah.
Either or. So
just dress.
Just make sure you're dressed.
Just make sure you got clothes on.
Either dress as you like or dress up.
Yeah, exactly.
Can't do both.
Can't do both. Exactly. And by the way, congratulations on the voter guide. I used it.
Good.
Because I'm here to tell you, dude, I've also got the big one, and I don't know anybody.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I picked up a bunch of voter guides last week from our printer, and we have posters. If you go to a couple of the gun shops, you'll see posters with our voter guide in there. And the printer's like, here, I'll help you out, because I had a couple boxes. I'll help you out to the car. And he's like, this is just our printer. He's like, yeah, I voted for so-and-so, and then I'm in this guy's district, and I voted for Kelly Martinez for sheriff.
Yeah, I did too.
And he's like, where do I, where can I go do some shooting outdoors?
Yeah, right, exactly, all in the same breath.
Hey, Dave, did you get your mail-in ballot?
Yes.
Or no? Yeah. Guess what I did with mine immediately when I grabbed it this week?
You ate it.
Nope. I immediately went to the shredder. Zzz, no, I'm not doing that. I'm going to vote in person every single time because I don't trust this.
But I think you have to use that guide.
I do?
Yeah, you do. That ballot.
Well, whoopsies.
But you can get
that's
ballot.
okay. No. Yeah, just go down to the Register of Voters
office.
Yeah.
Tell them your dog ate your ballot.
Exactly.
And they'll get you another
It's
one.
going to be now it's going to be a provisional ballot, but all that means is that they're going to count it at the end.
Right.
Gotcha.
Well,
okay.
Do you think that the voting is going to be because everybody's looking so hard and so deep?
Yeah, I mean, on this show, we had an expert, and the guy's telling us, look, the bigger danger is people not voting because they don't think it's legit.
Well,
I know you don't like that.
Well, but it's
I know you and I arm wrestle over this.
We do arm wrestle over it. I mean, I agree.
Vote. The most corrupt thing they're doing is convincing people to not vote. So vote.
Well, and I got to thinking about our little battle that we had.
Yeah.
And then I thought, okay, well,
I hate it when we fight, Dave.
I know I do too. In 2020, but making up is so much fun. But in 2020, they only really showed 2 or 3 states that were doing shady things out of all 50 states.
Well, in California,
if it was rampant.
I mean, honestly, in California, they don't have to do shady things to win.
No, that's true.
We're so outnumbered. That's why we need every single person to vote.
Yeah.
If every single person voted, if all gun owners voted for gun people, for gun candidates, we would win every time.
Yeah, I think you're
we
absolutely
would win
right.
every time. By the way, coming up on the show, TJ Johnston is a guy's a legend in Orange County. He's a trainer. He's been around for forever, and he's going to talk about who to vote for judges. That's one thing that's San Diego County gun owners, Orange County gun owners, Inland Empire. We don't endorse judges.
That's why that wasn't on the sheet.
Yes.
I was looking for. Okay,
so
gotcha.
TJ is going to talk about it. Now, most of the folks he's going to talk about are Orange County, but we're going to get some really good information for all you Orange County listeners on who TJ thinks you should vote for judge. Mm-hmm. We're also going to talk to Kelly Martinez, the endorsed candidate for sheriff by San Diego County Gun Owners.
Good.
A couple of segments, so we're going to talk to Kelly all about. I'm positive we're going to talk about CCWs.
I think so.
That might come up in the conversation, and we're going to interview her, and I'm really looking forward to that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then of course Dan Wos, we have a longtime friend of the show. We're going to talk to him about. I think we're talking to him about ghost guns.
Oh yeah,
which is scary.
I know. I get my knees start knocking when I think about a ghost gun.
But it was Friday the 13th, so I figure that fits.
I know. Trust me about it. But you know what? Hey, Friday the 13th is cool. There's nothing wrong with that.
And also, one more thing you got to know before we go to a commercial break is Assemblyman Levine changed. It's Bill 1227. It was a solar. It had to do with solar power. The bill did. And he gutted it and changed it to a 10% tax on guns and ammunition.
Really?
Yep. And all that money, that 10% that they're charging, is going to go to some anti-gun.
But it still says solar?
No, but they changed the name. But they got it introduced as like this solar bill. I don't know, promoting solar panels.
Did you listen to Newsom the other day talking about his budget and all the things he's going to do?
No. What's he going to do? With my money.
Yeah, trust me. Mark Larson was on KUSI this morning.
Yeah,
talking about it. I mean, it's.
Did you see? Did you see the huge surplus?
Yes.
That's about $2,800 per person, man, woman, child in California. $2,800 they overcharged us.
And he's happy about it.
I want to give it back.
He's bragging about it. He
Give me
thinks
it back.
All
right.
By the way, when you're waving your hand, that's like the bus is ready to leave.
Yeah.
The driver has not got behind the wheel yet.
Oh, gotcha.
That's where it was going. All right, go for it.
TJ Johnston has been working to empower people to take charge of their lives for years. We're going to talk to him about who to vote for judge next.
But if you have legal matters that involve firearms, then you need to call California firearm lawyer John Dillon, especially if you have questions about red flag laws, gun registration, gun transportation, or maybe you need to know that your guns are California compliant. Call our trusted firearms attorney, John Dillon. John Dillon specializes in California gun laws. Call 760-642-7150, or you can visit his website at dillonlawgp.com.
Okay, so TJ Johnston is the owner and operator of AllSafe Defensive Systems up in Orange County, and he's been an enormous Second Amendment leader in Southern California and all of California, really, for decades. I mean, he served on. Well, we're going to talk to him more about how, but if anyone knows who to vote for judge, it's TJ. This guy's been around for forever, and he's been working on your Second Amendment rights, defending them, expanding them, preserving them, out of Orange County for the longest time, and it truly is an honor to have him on the show. TJ, how are you, sir?
I'm very well, thank you. I appreciate the endorsement.
Yeah, thank you for being on. I got to tell you, talk a little bit about your background, because it is enormously impressive.
Well, I'm just long-lived, that's all. I'm just old.
Right on.
I was concerned when California passed the Reverting versus Assault Weapons Control Act in 1989. So I formed a local chapter called the Gun Owners Action Committee. We lobbied to make sure that the legislators in Orange County would no longer vote against the Second Amendment. And I was concerned that the NRA wasn't there. So I ran for the board in 91, lost, ran again in 92, lost, ran again in 93, and finally won a seat on the board of directors to try to get the NRA more active in the grassroots arena. And at the same time, I was an NRA instructor, and I tried to modify the education training programs of the NRA and make them a little more practical, especially for home defense. So on the board, I worked hard to get what we called NRA chapters, which became the NRA member councils under the direction of Ed Worley and Paul Payne. So we formed local chapters around the state, and it was reasonably successful, but eventually it lost steam. And I'm appreciating what Michael Schwartz is doing with the county gun owners in every county. He's doing a great job of getting gun owners together and trying to get people active, because that's what it's going to take to win back our Second Amendment rights. I
appreciate you saying that. It's definitely part of what it's going to take, and I appreciate everything that you've done, TJ. There was a time, basically, that if you wanted to do anything, be any kind of instructor for firearms across the board, if you asked around, and said, hey, I want to become a whatever, refuse to be a victim or pistol or whatever, what do I do? You got to go TJ. TJ's the guy. Got to go see TJ. I mean, you were really, truly running the state for a while. How did you get to that position? I know you worked hard to help other people or enable other people to be instructors as well, right?
Yeah, well, in '86, I became an instructor because I wanted to teach professionally and take money from people. So I became an NRA certified instructor in personal protection and found out the program was sadly lacking. I thought it was not really conversant to teaching people how to fight with a gun, which is what self-defense is all about.
And when you say that, what was it? Was it more of a kind of a like a hunting emphasis, or what was?
No. Well, I think you'll agree that our lives are run by risk management lawyers. In fact, that's what the NRA program was. It was so sanitized that you couldn't even shoot an IPSC target that had a head on it because they wouldn't allow headshots.
Interesting.
It was just
really
silly. Well,
back then
again, it was tried. Yes, it was tried to be as humanely civilized as possible. So I went on the board. I worked with a gentleman by the name of Jeff Cooper, who ran gun sight, front sight. His modern pistol technique is known worldwide. And I got him to work with a police officer by the name of Leroy Pyle. So we rewrote the personal protection courses. And the NRA came out with these in the year 2000 for personal protection inside the home, which is self-defense with a handgun, and personal protection outside the home, which is the most comprehensive concealed carry class in the United States. So I'm very proud of those two courses because they are real. they teach people how to use a handgun effectively. The next thing I'm working on is get the NRA to produce a defensive shotgun course.
Oh, wow.
Right now, their shotgun course is clay target shooting, which I don't know. I've never been attacked by a little orange orb. So I'm trying to get a defensive shotgun course out there. I run a defensive shotgun with AllSafe, but it's not NRA approved.
So the what you did for the NRA is now used all over the country.
Yes. Yeah. Well. Yeah. Understand that Jeff Cooper, Leroy Pond, and I wrote the lesson plan. Then the NRA took it back and sanitized it. Instead of Jeff Cooper's color codes of white, yellow, orange, and red, they named it unaware, alert, and alarm. So they sanitized it somewhat. But the core course is still, you can see Jeff Cooper through it.
And Colonel Cooper he was originally from California, right? Is that how did you guys know each other?
Yes. Yeah. Well, he ran a program called Leather Slap up at Big Bear. I don't know if anybody's old enough to remember Gunsmoke, Maverick, Ponderosa, all those kind of shows. And those cowboy actors would come up and shoot with Jeff, shooting one-handed. And this deputy from Los Angeles County by the name of Jack Weaver came up and kicked all their butts. And Jeff said, there's something to this. And he developed the Weaver technique of shooting with two hands on the gun.
Wow.
And then he popularized that so that became the standard for most of law enforcement and for military. So I thought Jeff was an instrumental part of developing a course for the NRA. So I, again, lobbied the board president to put Jeff on the education training committee with me so we could work on the course.
So wait. So before you go any further, so what year was that, by the way, with that Weaver and Jeff were, changed things so people were doing a two-hand?
In the 70s.
That was in the 70s. So before, and even into the 80s, it was really, really popular, it's unthinkable now, but it was really, really popular. The standard was to hold a gun with one hand.
Right. And if you look at all the law enforcement and military videos for the 1911 is shooting one-handed.
Isn't that amazing? I think the majority of people, if you go to any range these days, I think the majority of people in the range were probably born, after the 70s,
Yes, exactly, yeah.
And so I don't think people really remember. I don't think people really realize. It feels like this is how it's always been, but the art of shooting, we're talking. You're one of the guys that helped develop it. You know what I mean? Like, it's so recent. The people that actually put all this stuff together, are still around. I mean, it was just a few decades ago. It wasn't that long ago.
No, hang on. Let me say that Jeff Cooper developed it and popularized it. I just brought it to the NRA.
Understood. Sure. I don't want to. Yeah, but credit where credit's due. You had a lot to do with it as well. But yeah, it's amazing though to think about that. Just within my lifetime, they were within our lifetime. They were the standard. Shooting stance was one-handed. Which now let me
make a note. Now let me make a note that the Weaver position is becoming less popular because everybody's going to the isosceles position because it's a little easier. It takes less training. It's a more natural position, and you find most of your competitive shooters shoot isosceles now.
I've noticed that as well. Is there it's other than accuracy or comfort? Is there a strategic advantage to either Weaver or isosceles? Like, what do you normally teach for defensive shooting?
Well, again, I train with Cooper, so I'm a Cooperite. I really advocate for the Weaver stance. But again, body armor doesn't protect the side, so the front plate is for isosceles. So I understand. Mm-hmm. I just find the Weaver stance to give me more support, especially I shoot a 1911. So I shoot a 45, which has a little more recoil than your 9mm, which I call a 45 on stun. So it has a little more support in the Weaver stance for recoil control.
Another thing I don't think people understand, something I've said often, is California has a very rich Second Amendment history. And if I have anything to say about it, they're going to have a very rich Second Amendment future. But the history of, Jeff, I don't think a lot of people know, Jeff Cooper was from California. You helped change the NRA's curriculum. You're from California. All these different companies are from California, headquartered in California. Some of them have moved because California became California. What do you think? What do we do? What do we do from here? What do we do in the future? What have you learned in the last however many decades you've been fighting the fight? Where do we go from here?
The most important thing I think we can do is to reach out. There's so many brand new gun owners out there who really have no idea what they're doing. Now, we've got to get them trained. We've got to get them safe. And secondly, people who are carrying concealed weapons. I'm so pleased that Don Barnes, our sheriff in Orange County, is issued, I think, a little over 20,000 concealed weapons permits.
Isn't that great?
My concern is a lot of these people aren't ready to fight with a gun.
Interesting.
They've had a minimal experience of knowing how the gun operates, but they have no idea how to draw from concealment, how to shoot from cover, how to move and shoot, how to shoot from attention, how to shoot in low light. And those are the things we offer in this CCW class with the outside the home course.
So what's your advice? What are they?
Again, we have to reach out to the community. That's why I just finished just today, just an hour ago, finished the NRA Basic Pistol Instructor course. I have 7 new instructors out there who are going to go teach people in their community how to properly own and use firearms. And that's the key. We've got to take our experienced shooters and have them share their experience with people who are not, and make it a friendly, enjoyable course so people can have fun with guns and realize they're not dangerous implements of death, but they can be recreational, they can be skill development as well as a defensive tool. And
I think that'll be a cultural change.
Oh yeah,
which I think is important.
Show people that guns are not negative.
Well, and I
change the image that the media's portrayed.
Yeah,
it really strikes me that the government doesn't want you to own a gun, but if they're going to let you have a gun, they don't push taking a safety course. Why don't they make a safety course like what you're talking about?
Now let me jump up and down and say, like Texas has shall issue. Nobody has to get any training at all to carry a concealed weapon. But there's a school in Orange County called Artemis that I highly recommend.
Yeah.
They have a slogan: you have the right to carry, but you have the responsibility to train.
Exactly.
But anybody who wants to manage a gun, whether it be at home or carry it on their person, has the absolute responsibility to make sure it's used properly, and that takes training.
Artemis is great. Do you go? Do you use Artemis much? It's a big. For those who don't know, Artemis has this huge simulator, a really, really modern simulator. It's almost like Star Trek. Have you used that a lot, TJ?
Oh, not a lot. Again, I send my people to Artemis. My CCW class, everything's a shoot target. At Artemis, they can change up shoot with no shoot on the fly.
Yeah.
And you have to make that decision. In my class, I'm sorry, there's no decisions. You see a target, your job is to get hits on it. So I really advocate that people finish my course and then quickly go to Artemis to learn how to make decisions while under penalty of death.
Nice.
I like that.
Okay, so what we're going to do is, that's a lot of context. I'm really glad we had to have that conversation. TJ, you are a wealth of knowledge and history, and I think we need to have you on more just to talk more about the everything that's going on. What we're going to do is we're going to go to a break. We have a lot of context now. We understand who you are. And I'm really, really glad we got to introduce you to our listeners. And now we want you to talk about who to vote for judge, right? That's what you're prepared to talk about?
I have an excellent list of people, but I'm afraid it's for Orange County.
That's okay. We're in Orange County, too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, cool. So hang on the line.
All right, TJ.
We're going to go to a commercial.
Well, when you're looking for jewelry or fine watches, you need to go to San Diego's top jewelry shop, Leo Hamels. Conveniently located in the heart of San Diego, you can visit Leo's showroom at 1851 San Diego Avenue to see all their hand-picked line of new jewelry and watches. And when you buy from Leo Hamel, not only do you get the best deal, you are also supporting the Second Amendment. Support the companies that support the 2A. Call 619-299-1500, or you can just visit their showroom on San Diego Avenue, and always get awesome service at Leo's. Call 619-299-1500, or you can stop by their showroom at 1851 San Diego Avenue, just off the 5 freeway.
All right, we're talking to TJ Johnston from AllSafe Defensive Systems up in Orange County. We just had a fantastic conversation about the Second Amendment and just barely scratched the surface on all the efforts he has made over the years that we're all very thankful for. And now what we want to talk about, TJ, is now how you're going to give some recommendations on who to vote for judge. And San Diego County and Orange County and Inland Empire, San Diego County gun owners, I should say, Orange County gun owners, Inland Empire gun owners, we do not endorse judges for a variety of reasons. So I'm very curious. I'm very thankful that you have recommendations for folks up in Orange County. How did you come to the conclusion? What are you basing all this on?
First of all, let me say it's always been a mystery to me. I just excluded voting for judges because I never knew. But once again, back to what I do, I train instructors for the NRA, and I have a team of instructors that help me teach in my classes. Mm-hmm. And one of those team members is a deputy DA who works in the Orange County Courthouse on felony prosecutions. So this person knows the judges. And so I asked them for a recommendation for what they considered good judges who would not prosecute or would not judge against somebody who, for example, concealed carry printed and somebody called a man with a gun, and the guy got arrested.
Right.
That'd be thrown out of court.
Right.
But again, they would be aggressive about somebody who carjacks, even the gun was discharged. They would obviously, if the deputy DA asked for enhancements, the judge would follow through on that, unlike what's going on in Los Angeles County.
Yeah.
So we got a good DA in Todd Spitzer, and these judges would support stringent restrictions on people who misuse their firearms and be lenient for people who make a mistake.
Right. Misuse like criminals. hard on criminals.
That's right.
Okay,
Yep.
so how do you want to do this? Do you want to just go through the list? Do you want to talk about each individually, or what's the best way to talk about this?
I don't know them personally, so what I do is tell you the office district number and their name.
All right, go for it. Start, and then we'll
write it down.
Okay, and is it posted anywhere too? Like, what if people want to see this later?
That's an interesting question. I'm wondering if I should put it on my website.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't know at this point. I can check and see if I can get that on my website.
Okay, all right.
Because that would be a good idea.
And
so the list
go ahead.
starts office number 5, Claudia Alvarez. Office number 9, Christopher Duff. Office number 11, Sean Nelson. He's been around for quite a while. Office number 21, Aaron Rowe, R-O-W-E. Office 22, Brahim Beyteh. That's B-A-Y-T-I-E-H. Office number 20, Eric Scarborough. Office 30, Michelle Bell. Office number 33, Steve McGreevy. And Office 45, Israel Klostro. Those are people that I can stand behind and say, with the Deputy DA's endorsement, these will be good people to vote for on a ballot.
Good. Okay, excellent. And if people, you don't have it up yet, but people should check out your website at
AllSafeDefense.com.
AllSafeDefense.com. And you have a newsletter, right?
Yes, I do. If they want my newsletter, at the very bottom of my webpage, it says, check here to get my newsletter.
So especially if you...
spam. They have to check in and say they want it.
Good. Okay. And these are all, especially if you're in Orange County, and all these judges are running in Orange County, or is there some overlap?
That's correct.
Okay.
This is Orange County, yes.
So go to allsafedefense.com, sign up for his newsletter, maybe check it in a few days, see if he's got it posted online.
I'll work on it. Tomorrow, see if I can get it up. I'll put a link on my homepage so people click on it and see this list.
It is really difficult to, one of the reasons we don't endorse judges, it's just really difficult. There's some ethical barriers, I guess. It's really difficult for a judge to say, or a candidate who's running for a judge to say, for example, how they would rule on certain things. So if you ask a judge, like, hey, how would you rule on XYZ case, whatever, they can't tell you, and so it's really, really difficult to come to a conclusion. So this type of hands-on experience and vetting that you have is invaluable.
Yeah, I agree. And it's always been a mystery to me, but I've got this resource. And let me say, if anybody knows of a deputy DA in the local San Diego office, they should talk to that person and get endorsements, because those deputy DAs work every day with judges and know which are Santa Claus judges and which are the good ones.
It's a good idea. I have a couple of, there's some people I know, so I think it's a good idea. I didn't really thought of that. I'll have to reach out and see what we can find for San Diego. I don't know. We'll have to figure that out. I can't do it under San Diego County gun owners, but we'll have to figure something out. So what?
Well, again, you send it to me. I'll publicize it.
There you go. That's a good idea. Okay. How much is kind of switching, or going back to something you said before you talked about the endorsements, how much do you see people getting in trouble for printing?
Very few. Again, well, let me say, in my class, we emphasize that it's not a violation of law, but you will get undue attention if you do show that you're carrying. It's an agreement with the sheriff department. The firearm will stay concealed, and that means you dress around your gun. You find clothing that conceal the gun, whether you carry appendix or strong side, whatever you carry. You make sure that you have a garment that covers it. And, of course, in summer months, you got to find smaller guns.
Yeah. Or sweat, one of the two. If you, so what do you mean it's not a violation? Printing's not a violation of the law?
No.
Talk about that more.
Okay, so if indeed somebody, you're reaching up for the sun chips off the grocery store shelf, right, and your shirt rides up and the gun shows, and somebody sees it and calls 911, man with a gun. Of course, police will respond very aggressively, and when they identify you, they'll be very aggressive with you. Okay. The question is, did you violate the law? An aggressive DA in Los Angeles may say that was an assault with a deadly weapon.
Oh,
you understand?
Geez.
So it all depends how the police officer logs it, and then there's an investigation by the DA. I am concerned that Todd Spitzer will do a great job for us, but in Los Angeles County, if you're traveling from Orange County to Los Angeles County because your permit is good statewide, that Gascon could be very nasty. And then you have to get lawyers, and it's very expensive.
You're a little less convinced that it'll go your way in L.A.
But there's nothing in the penal code that says having your gun shown without the intent to coerce behavior is a violation of law.
Here's another question that I get a lot, and it drives me kind of crazy. So you have a CCW, you're carrying concealed, you're doing everything right. You go up to a store, grocery store, retail store, whatever, and they have, a picture of a gun with a big X through it, and it says no firearms, penal code 602. If you go in there, is that a violation of law?
No. Any establishment can prohibit any weapons, knives, guns, clubs, whatever. Okay? If you violate that and they ask you to leave and you refuse, now you're
trespassing.
You've committed a crime. Yes, misdemeanor trespass. But it is not a penal code violation. It's not a gun issue, shall we say.
Yeah, it's, basically because they say, hey, we don't want guns here, that doesn't carry the weight of law. They're just allowed to they're allowed to ask you to leave like anybody. It's just, they don't have any special rights over you and your home. If you ask somebody, hey, I really don't want you to be in here with your CCW and your carry gun, that doesn't mean you can get them arrested, and it's no different than at someone's personal home, someone's business. Not just because it's a business doesn't mean that they carry the special weight of law.
Yes, I carried a folding knife into the. I was looking for the Apollo exhibit at the Nixon Library, and I was carrying a folding knife. The officer said, "Do you have any weapons?" I said, "No." He said, "Well," and he wanted me. So what's that? So it's a knife. So that's a weapon. No, it's a box cutter. Right? Okay. So I didn't argue about it. I took it back to my car, and it's no problem. So that's the issue: is you can't stand your ground and say it's my right, because then you can be they can arrest you for misdemeanor trespass.
Right. Which, great. Everybody, I'm a big proponent of property rights as well. So they have every right to ask you to leave.
Exactly.
And I have every right to never shop there again.
That's also true.
But TJ, if they do find the other part of that question though is how do they know? If they've found out you're carrying, you made a mistake, right?
That's your fault. Yes, you want to make sure that nobody knows that you're armed.
And don't be a jerk and go in there and say I'm carrying, and you can't tell me not. I mean, just.
Yeah, you're just asking for trouble.
Yeah.
Something I found though that's never been an issue. I think that we only had from Matt Cubier from Michelle's Law said that there's one situation where a person was using their firearm to coerce. It was a parking issue, and the guy showed that he had a gun, and he no longer has a permit. Let me say that. And
that is absolutely wrong.
Exactly.
You're basically threatening somebody.
Yeah.
Somebody explained it really, really well. You know who it was? It was Artemis. It was Steve Lieberman explained it really, really well. That stuck with me. He said, "Look, all a CCW does is it exempts you from the transportation laws regarding a firearm. It doesn't give you special authority. It doesn't turn you into a police officer. All it does is say, okay, all these gun transportation laws that we have, it has to be unloaded and locked and et cetera. It exempts you from the transportation laws. That's all a CCW does."
Well put. Very well put.
I thought so. That really kind of cleared it up. So now when you're like, well, hey, can I do this? Can I do that? Well, no, you're not a cop now. You're just been exempt from transportation laws. That's all, it helped put it into perspective for me.
Exactly right.
Well, TJ, this is awesome. I would love for you to come on more. I really think that there are so many conversations to be had. I would love to hear more about, the history of the Second Amendment and fighting. I should say the history of fighting to preserve the Second Amendment, which you are front and center for. There's something I've always wanted to talk to you about. Back in the early '90s, during the riots, you were front and center for some of that. Let's say. And I would love. There's so many conversations to be had. I'm so honored that you're on the show, TJ. Thank you for everything you've done. Thank you for the recommendations. And everybody, go to allsafedefense.com. Take classes from TJ. Check out his recommendations. Thank you so much. You know, my friend was bragging that his new 3D printer can print a gun, but I'm not really impressed, Dave, because I've had a Canon printer for years.
Yeah.
More talk on homemade guns with Dan Wos next.
I had a Canon, and mine wouldn't print either.
You are a Canon, my friend.
I am a Canon. And by the way, good job last week.
Thank you.
I was out playing in the desert, got a lot of good compliments. I was glad to see the key still turned in the door.
Yeah, what are you talking about? Good job on the
when
show.
You hosted, yeah.
I find out your job over there on that side of the desk is harder than I thought. You gotta
corral. You gotta corral the cats.
Yeah,
is the old saying.
That's right. You gotta coordinate. But I'm glad you got Mother's Day off, Dave.
Yeah, I went to the desert. They went down Diablo Drop.
Diablo Drop. Wow.
Yeah,
what were you in?
I was GMC Sierra.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. Anyway, hey folks, does it take too long or too much time to clean your guns? Well, clean, lube, and protect your guns faster with Seal One. Seal One CLP Plus is natural, non-toxic, and environmentally friendly. Clean your guns easier, faster. You'll smell better, too. Something that moms will appreciate. One and done with Seal One. Ask for it by name at your local gun shop or get some on their website, seal1.com. That's seal, the number 1.com.
All right, our next guest, Dan Wos, author of Good Gun, Bad Guy, and the Second Amendment Advocate. Oh, and Second Amendment. Author of Good Gun, but see, it is tough, Dave.
I'm telling you, and you're on that side.
Radio's not for the faint of heart.
Faint of heart.
Author of Good Guy, Bad Gun, and he's a Second Amendment Advocate. Dan Wos. How you doing, Dan?
Good. How are you guys? What's going on over there on the West Coast?
We're struggling, but we're doing fine.
Yeah, I'm learning how to read right here live on the show.
Hey, well, if you don't mind, I'll correct you on that. It's Good Gun, Bad Guy.
Good Gun. It's written correctly, and I just didn't read it correctly. Oh, my gosh.
See, so I don't want to hear nothing when I screw up a commercial.
Good Gun, Bad Guy. Tell real quick, how do people find that book?
GoodGunBadGuy.com.
Oh, well, there you go. That's smart.
Difficult.
So how you doing, man? You've been on the show.
Take it easy. Yeah, I'm doing great.
Good.
There's a lot of stuff going on, and oh man, I just got back from Rock the Red, so I spoke at the big Freedom event with Mike Lindell, Lara Trump, and Roger Stone. So that was a lot of fun.
Wow.
In South Carolina. And
what was the purpose? What was going on there?
It was really just a freedom conference, really. It was fantastic because we had people from all over the country, people from all over the world, really, coming to speak and to come to the event and just kind of gather and unite. And it was called Rock the Red. Like I said, we had some good speakers there, and
Was it good attendance? Is it a typical Trump type rally?
It was a lot more passive than your typical Trump rally. It was more of a conference, hotel kind of setup,
Okay.
With vendors and exhibitors, and I did a book signing and stuff like that. So it was a little bit of a different.
What was your part? What did you talk about?
Well, I was the only Second Amendment voice at the event, and I basically talked about terminology, how the anti-gun left uses terminology to demonize guns and gun owners. So I hit on a lot of the things that people know about and they hear all the time, like the gun violence and the ghost guns and the weapons of war and all the big terms that they use to kind of boldly put this messaging out there. So I talked about that, and I dissected a lot of that stuff and kind of explained why they use those things and how it affects the way we think about guns in America. And I got into some statistics, and I talked about the number of defensive gun uses. There's a huge number of defensive gun uses in America, as opposed to the very small amount of
homicides.
Times guns. Right, exactly. So I talked a lot about those statistics and stuff, and really made the case, because the case is out there to make.
It is.
The problem is people just aren't making it. But I made the case for gun ownership and the fact that gun ownership is a net positive to preserve life, and that's really what I talked about, and people really loved it. So,
so correct me if I'm wrong. There are close to 3 million defensive gun uses every year in the country, right? Something like that?
It depends. It depends what studies you look at. Now, there are a couple that I go to. The big one that was in 1995 was by Gary Kleck and Mark Gertz, and Gary Kleck is a Florida criminologist. If you guys are familiar with that. That was 2.5 million defensive gun uses per year.
Okay.
And the interesting thing about that is that 46%, if you read that report and you get down deep into the details, you realize that 46% of those are women defending themselves with a gun. And over 95% of the time, the gun isn't even used. It's just the mere presence of a gun that stops the bad guy. So it's really just astonishing that we're not talking about this stuff more. The funny thing about that study is the media tried covering up, and they tried discrediting it for the longest time, but the CDC came out with a report that showed 2.46 million, essentially the same number, and they held that report as long as they possibly could, and they didn't release it. They were finally forced to release it, and what it basically did was it backed up the Kleck-Gertz study. And there's really no denying it. There was another college, I forget what college it was, Georgetown or some college, who did a study that showed 1.67 million defensive gun uses per year. And while we're talking, I'll try to find that.
Now, I think that CDC report it's kind of funny, but I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was initiated and then finally published under the Obama administration, and it completely backfired on them.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah. Yeah, they didn't want that information getting out. It was terrible for their narrative. And then 2021 National Firearms Survey, McDonough School of Business, Georgetown University, the study found 1.67 million defensive gun uses per year in America. 69.5% were handguns. 81.9% of the time, no shots fired.
Wow! In your whole life, do you have a defensive gun use story at all? I mean, not necessarily pulling the trigger, but any kind of defensive gun use story.
It actually was a time that I didn't have a gun that really changed my life, and I tell the story in Good Gun Bad Guy. But I was on the anti-gun side of this conversation for a while. Although I was raised in a pro-gun family, I kind of went anti-gun in my teens and 20s, because I was hanging with the wrong crowd. I wasn't hanging with bank robbers or drug dealers. I was hanging with the anti-gun liberals, and that stuff gets in your head. So it happened to me, and which is why I write the way I write, because I started to see the lies and the false narrative. But anyway, so
I like you better now, Dan.
Well, most people do. Well, the people who matter like me more now.
Yeah.
But my wife and I are coming out of a late-night movie theater, and we had this run-in with this guy, and we were fine. We ended up fine, but it was just enough to make me realize that my job as a man, as a husband, as a father is to protect my family. And that night, had it gone sideways, I don't think I would have been able to. So that night changed everything for me. That's my defensive gun story. It's a story of when I didn't have a gun.
Yeah. So, okay, let's go back over the numbers. So 1.5, and this, by the way, this isn't even what we're supposed to talk about. We're going to talk about what we're supposed to talk about in the next segment, I promise. Okay. But this is really interesting. So between 1.5 and 2.5 million times per year, somebody uses a firearm defensively, not necessarily pulling the trigger. It could just be, brandishing.
Most often it's brandishing.
Most often it's brandishing. You said about half the time it's a woman.
Yeah, exactly. Don't we want women to be able to protect themselves? Aren't we interested in women being able to defend themselves? I don't understand why we would want women to be defenseless.
So 1.5 to 2.5 million times per year, somebody stops a violent attack, possibly a murder, sure. But a violent attack, some kind of attack on themselves. 1.5 to 2.5 million times a year. Homicides. Now, a homicide is anytime someone dies. It's not necessarily, it doesn't matter what the cause was, right? It's just anytime one human kills another, or is that
right?
what?
There's a difference between homicide and murder.
Right. Murder implies that you're doing it illegally or with bad intent, I guess, whereas a homicide could be a suicide as a type of homicide. Is that right?
Good question. I'm not sure on that one, but they do qualify suicides differently.
Okay.
when they look at these gun-related death numbers.
So how many non-suicide? How many homicides per year usually?
Okay, well, you got to we start with the number about 36,000 gun-related deaths. So they love the anti-gun crowd says they love to say 40,000, gun murders, right?
Yeah.
Well, the truth is we have to take 60% of those out because 60% of those are suicides. And we can't keep those in there because we cannot attribute suicide to guns because we understand now by looking at Australia and other countries that when you just in the absence of guns, suicides doesn't go down. As a matter of fact, in Australia, suicides actually ticked up a little bit after the big gun bans. So we have to take that out. So we're down to about 14,400 gun-related deaths, and that includes law enforcement, and it includes gang violence. And the vast majority of that 14.4 is gang violence. So what would happen if we took gang violence out? We'd be down to just about nothing, you know. And the interesting thing is that they focus on that 40,000 number, which is false, and they ignore the 2.5 million defensive gun users.
But even if it was
40,000,
even if you include the very sad and tragic reality that 2/3 of that are suicides, 40,000 combined or compared to 1.5 to 2.5 million is absolutely nothing. Okay, so we're going to go to a commercial break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about home manufactured firearms, Dan.
Hey, well, a lot of companies are really frustrated with their websites. It looks old. It's hard to update. It's not generating any leads. It smells. But you know what? Sage Tree gets it. Since 2005, Sage Tree has been helping companies with websites that look great, work great, and get leads. Stop being embarrassed by your website and get one that you're proud to share. Contact Sage Tree today to get a website that makes the phone ring. Getting started is super easy. Go to sagetree.com. Schedule a call. Go to sagetree.com. Press that schedule a call button, and you'll be all set. All right, Michael.
All right, we're talking to Dan Wos. He's the author of Good Gun, Bad Guy. Did I get it right, Dan?
Yeah, you got it right, man.
All right, brother. All right, so we just had a whole cool conversation on defensive gun use, which was really, really interesting. I appreciate that very much. We should get you out to the West Coast to give that same speech, man. We got to figure out a way to get you out here.
Gun prom.
I would be happy to. Yeah, let's try to make it happen. I'd love to come out there and show people what real patriotism looks like.
That'd be cool. Well,
you guys are doing a great job of it.
Yeah, well, thank you. And we'll have who's your guitar playing buddy out here? What was that dude's name?
Oh, Todd Howarth. He played with he played keyboards for Cheap Trick. He played guitar for Ace Frehley.
Yeah.
Ted Nugent. He played with Ted Nugent.
There you go. So bring your guitar.
Okay.
I play bass.
All right.
Dave, I don't know if you know this, plays the congos.
I don't play nothing.
Or the bongos. He sings.
I sing.
I do play bass. That'd be cool. We should go jam with that guy. That'd be cool, Dan. You come out here, I would love that. That would be a highlight.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Well, I'll definitely try to make that happen. Let's try to do that.
Do that at gun prom. And there's our entertainment.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea, actually. It's not a bad idea.
I know.
All right, so home manufactured guns. So it's kind of ghost guns are a hot, that's the hot button these days, right? That's what the anti-gunners are all going after. I got to tell you, politically, strategically, the anti-gun folks way, way better than the pro-gun folks. They do a really good job of picking one thing, and they put all their effort towards it, and they gain as much ground as they can possibly gain on it. Mm-hmm. They make it sound like it's the worst thing that's ever happened in the whole history of mankind, and then they get as much restricted and taken away and banned as they can, and then they move on and they all concentrate on the next big thing. So right now, what they're doing is they're concentrating on ghost guns. But they're conflating the idea of ghost guns and home manufactured firearms in order to gain ground, in order to continue with their anti-gun agenda. So what do you make of all this, Dan?
Well, ghost guns is a term that I'm starting to notice is being used for a larger purpose. So basically, when they talk about ghost guns, what they're talking about is any gun that can't be tracked or traced by the government. And the implication of the term ghost guns, the implication is that guns should be traceable. this is astonishing to me that people would even go down that path, because I don't remember reading in the Second Amendment, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed as long as the government can track your guns to your front door. That was never in there. In other words, our founding fathers never had any intention of the government knowing who has guns, where they're located, and all that stuff. This is something that the term ghost guns it implies that it's some outrageous notion that these guns can't be traced. Well, I think that was the original intent. Anyway, so that's my first piece on ghost guns. But the real reason that they're pushing this term is because they always, if you notice, they always push something and then they have a solution to solve the problem, right?
Right.
So their solution to these so-called ghost guns that can't be traced is what? Universal background checks, right? Because now they're saying, well, these ghost guns are out in the streets and they're roaming around the cul-de-sac and we don't know where they are and they're scary and people who don't know any better get scared of the term ghost guns. Oh my God, what is it? Well, so the idea then is, well, we can fix the problem, they say. We just need universal background checks. All right. So why do they want universal background checks so badly? And that is because every gun will be registered and will be traced. And that means family members, exchanging guns, friends exchanging guns, all have to go through an FFL, the serial numbers get registered. So the idea there is to know where the guns are, who has them, who they're registered to, and all that stuff. And now here's the clincher of all this. Why would they want to be pushing universal background checks at the same time that we hear so much about red flag laws? And remember swatting. Swatting was a thing where you could turn in your neighbors and the cops would come and harass the gun owner. But no reason. You could do it for any reason. You saw a gun in public at the Kroger grocery store or whatever. You could call the cops and they would even say, let the cops sort it out. Well, swatting turned into red flag laws or extreme risk protection orders, which is actually legislation in some states that say the cops can come in, you can accuse somebody of being a danger to society. The cops can come, confiscate the guns, and figure it out later. Yeah. And
California's a big champion of that malarkey. It's really horrible. It really truly is a law that allows others to be predatory against gun owners.
Well, and here's the thing that I started to notice is that the reason universal background checks or gun registry are being pushed simultaneously or in tandem with red flag laws is because, once you know where the guns are with universal background checks in a registry, you'll need the vehicle in place to confiscate them, which is the red flag laws. I mean, these two, it's like peanut butter and jelly. These two go together, and I don't think a lot of people recognize it, which is scary to me. So that's why I try to point that stuff out.
Interesting. So what do you think? I mean, where do we go from here with this? What's the future look like?
We fight it. We fight it back at every step of the way. We don't compromise with anything. I'm not going to compromise on bump stocks. I'm not going to compromise on anything, magazine capacity restrictions. I'm not going to compromise on anything because the minute we do, you guys know what happens. They take that and they go for more. And pretty soon, I mean, here, look where we are. You guys, I'm in New York, so I'm not any better off than you. We have a two-tier permitting system, which is absolutely ridiculous. We've got a 1-year waiting period, to carry a gun in public. And you guys, you got crazy gun laws there too, because we didn't speak up. We didn't support our gun rights organizations enough. They didn't have the money. I always believe in supporting your state-run gun rights organization, and also at least one or two of your national gun rights organizations, because they're the ones in court. They're the ones fighting these ridiculous gun laws, and we have to just keep fighting them back.
It's crazy, and we didn't even plan on talking about the red flag laws like gun violence restraining orders, but you probably don't know this, but the sheriff in San Diego stepped down, and we're in the middle of an election. And you're talking about, support and fight back and, all that other good stuff. And you're absolutely right on. The Republicans endorsed a guy who he supports red flag laws and gun violence restraining orders. Yeah. Not only does he support them in his job as city attorney in San Diego, he actually helped spread them to other jurisdictions. So he took it upon himself. They got a grant from the state to go to other law enforcement agencies and not just say, hey, here's how you implement these red flag laws, but basically say, hey, take these red flag laws and turn them into standard operating procedure almost any time a gun's involved.
Well, I've been I've been writing about. I write for AmmoLand, and I've been writing about the Florida, which should have been the 25th constitutional carry state, and it failed because there's rhino Republicans in Florida, in the Florida legislature, who've been dragging their feet now for the third year in a row on constitutional carry because they're the same guys who supported the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas bill, which included red flag laws and age requirements.
And Dan, it's so bad, I propose we stop saying rhino, Republican in name only. I propose we just start calling them Republicans because over and over again, it's just what they support, you know? So anyway, Dan, thank you so much, man. Always a pleasure. Can't wait to get you out here. Thanks for your time.
Keep up the fight, my man.
Appreciate it.
San Diego County gun owners endorsed Kelly Martinez for Sheriff of San Diego County. We're going to talk to her next.
Hey, folks, did you know we have a world-class training school at San Diego Flight Training International? That's right. Pilots can fly 360 out of 365 days a year, and they're close to the ocean, the desert, they have mountains, and we're right next to an international border and a major military base. San Diego is one of the best places to learn how to fly in the world. Learn to fly in the heart of San Diego right at Montgomery Field. Getting started is easy. Just give them a call at 858-569-1822. You can learn to fly with SDFTI. That's 858-569-1822.
One of the most important votes you can cast this June is for San Diego County Sheriff. We have essentially an open seat. Sheriff Gore stepped down, retired. He's every day Saturday for him. And so we have, we're up to 7 candidates that are running for sheriff, and it's an extremely important position. San Diego County Gun Owners, I am very proud to say, has done more vetting on all the candidates than any group out there, any organization, any writer. And we came to the very obvious conclusion that Kelly Martinez, who's the current undersheriff, is by far the best candidate for the job. So she is currently the undersheriff. She's been with the department for over 30 years. We invited her on the air to talk more, but as not as the undersheriff, as the candidate to be the next sheriff of San Diego County. Kelly, are you there?
I'm here.
Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, thank you, and I agree. I appreciate so much all the vetting that you've done, and I appreciate the support that I've been given. Thanks so much.
You bet. Thank you. Yeah, congratulations on your endorsement. We're very much very proud to back you for Sheriff of San Diego County, and thank you for all the things that you've done to support and earn our endorsement. So why don't we start with tell us about your background and basically paint the picture. Tell us why your background makes you the most qualified to be sheriff.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been on the Sheriff's Department for 37 years. I've worked my way through the ranks, and I'm currently the undersheriff. I run the day-to-day operations of the department, and the Sheriff's Department is responsible for public safety services for over 4,200 square miles of unincorporated San Diego County. We have 9 contract cities, 18 Indian reservations. We manage the jails and security at the courthouses. It's over a $1.1 billion budget with 4,700 staff positions. And I've worked in every part of this county, in every part of our department. There's no one with my experience or my qualifications to be sheriff. I have the endorsement of our rank and file deputies, as well as the Chiefs and Sheriff Association of this county. I'm endorsed by law enforcement throughout the state, and it's just really imperative that the next sheriff can work with and has the trust and respect of law enforcement.
Now, did you work your way through each department and each section of the sheriff's department? Was it in the back of your, has it been in the back of your head for a while that, hey, I'm doing this so that I can be the best candidate for sheriff because I eventually want to be the sheriff? Or when did you come to that conclusion?
Yeah, no, not really. I was a deputy and a detective and an investigator for 22 years. I spent about 17 years in our Special Investigations Division working narcotics and gangs and a variety of things. I kind of had to be talked into promoting to sergeant. I was really enjoyed that time as a deputy. And then, you know, I just, as a sergeant, lieutenant, captain, and all of the other ranks, I just was really involved in every rank, and I really enjoyed the job at every rank. I didn't think about becoming sheriff until I was asked by former Sheriff Gore and others to take on this job, and that was last year. So.
And so I've frequently said that sheriff is it's really a very different. It's different from other offices because there's a necessary skill set that's required for the job. A lot of the city council or assembly or whatever, really, we just want to know, hey, what's your opinion on stuff? They don't really actually have to have any skill or talent. Every assembly member and city council member is gonna love that I said that. But the reality is there really is a very necessary skill set when it comes to being sheriff. So what makes the sheriff such a complicated position?
Yeah, the sheriff's unique. There's only 58 sheriffs in the entire state of California. And unlike a police chief, the sheriff's elected and works for the public. The chief works for the mayor and the city council, where the sheriff's really has to answer to the public. And the entire county votes for the sheriff. It's 3.3 million people in this county. It's not a district or a city office. And the sheriff is critical to public safety in the entire region. The sheriff coordinates the regional response to critical incidents such as fires, riots, things like that, and supports all of the other law enforcement agencies in the county. The sheriff is responsible for the jails, which other agencies are not, and a multitude of other public safety functions. We're the only agency that contracts to municipalities in the region, school districts, tribal nations, organizations, and other law enforcement agencies for services.
So then what's the danger? What's the real danger of not knowing what you're doing as sheriff?
Well, as I said earlier, the responsibilities of the sheriff are pretty immense. You can't learn our organization, the 4,700 staff, and all of our functions, the communities we serve, and you can't learn that on the job and still be an effective leader. The communities depend on a knowledgeable, experienced, and professional law enforcement leader. It'd be impossible to understand the complexities of this job on day one without that experience, and that lack of knowledge and experience could really seriously derail public safety and all of the projects and priorities that we're moving forward right now.
So, okay. So, of course, when I ask people, hey, I'm going to interview Kelly Martinez, what do you want to know about? I think, 99.9% of the responses were, of course, CCW related. When you took over as undersheriff, you and I met, and you committed in our first meeting to improving the CCW process, which you did. I was very, very impressed with what you did and how you did it. And, basically you said, hey, you know what? I don't have solutions yet. But then you found solutions, you implemented them, and it really made a true difference in the process, which I very much appreciate. But why was that important to you?
Well, it's important to understand really how broken our system was. The wait time for a first appointment with our licensing staff was 2 years in some cases, and that was really unacceptable. I care about people's right to protect themselves, and it simply wasn't fair that someone who qualified under the law for, for a concealed carry permit had to wait 2 years to start that process. I had our staff look at every aspect of our process because we had, a set number of staff. I couldn't increase staff and couldn't increase the size of the offices they worked in. So we wanted to look at our process and what we were doing. And one of the fixes that we made was to allow renewals to occur in the mail. That simple change opened up in-person appointments, and we could fill those with first-time applicants. And I understand now the wait time is a matter of weeks, and I've gotten a couple of phone calls from individuals that got in for their first appointment within a couple of days.
And some of your opponents have said, well, they're simply going to hire more staff. That's their solution, which really truly shows that they don't understand the complexity and they don't understand the problem. If you simply hire more staff, where are you getting the money? You have to work within a budget. Yeah. That budget is handed to you by the county board. We work with you really well, and you actually help them, expand the budget, which is great. But if somebody comes in and just says, well, gee, I'm just going to hire more people, I'm going to get 5 or 6 or 10 or whatever more people. Okay, so you're going to take deputies off the street, and if so, have you talked to the union with the agreement? It's an enormously complicated process, and for you to work within your limitations that you had and still get the job done was really really amazing. Okay, so your values and the issues that you talk about as far as priorities, they're not partisan. You talk about like safety and efficiency, like we were just talking about with CCWs and transparency and following the law. You chose to run as a Democrat. There are people who are going to vote for you based entirely on the fact that you're running as a Democrat, but there are also people that will not vote for you based entirely on the fact that you're running as a Democrat. What do you think about that?
Well, like you said, the sheriff's nonpartisan, and the most important thing to understand about the sheriff is the responsibility of that role to protect everyone in our county, regardless of party affiliation. So I'm a career law enforcement professional. Politics don't enter into my job. I believe in protecting victims and making communities safe and in providing the highest quality public safety service possible. I'm also strongly supportive of our deputies, and I'll provide them the support, the training, and the tools that they need to do their job. At the same time, law enforcement must be transparent in our process and accountable to the public we serve. And that's got nothing to do with party affiliation. I think everyone expects that of law enforcement.
That sounds great, but what would you tell somebody who only votes Republican, but they're thinking about voting for you?
Well, I do understand that there are differences between Democrats and Republicans, of course. I know that we all share the same thoughts about public safety, though. We all want to feel safe. And I know that if I'm given the opportunity, that I'll earn your trust and you will like the job that I'm going to do for you.
It is complicated. It's amazing. I can't believe, San Diego County Gun Owners, we're a nonpartisan organization, and we do that on purpose. We decided when we created San Diego County Gun Owners that we had to be nonpartisan, because if we were partisan, what's the point? Why if we only paid attention to Republicans, why not just be the Republican Party? And I think it's really important that we find Democrats who support the Second Amendment and Republicans who support the Second Amendment, and we don't care what their party affiliation is. We only care what they're going to do for gun owners, which you have a proven track record, which really truly makes you unique amongst all your opponents that are running. You're the only one that's actually done something, and everybody else says that they're going to do something or claims that they want to do something, but really, truly, you're the only one that has a track record of actually doing something and helping, which we very much appreciate. But I had no idea just how dedicated. I should say I had no idea. I'm surprised at just how dedicated people are to their party that they've chosen. And I got to tell you, if you're out there and you're dedicated to a party so much that it causes you to overlook a candidate that is clearly a better candidate, who's clearly a better choice, I think it's time to reevaluate why you're dedicated to that party. Because, Kelly, you just done an amazing job. So we have to go to a commercial. We're going to come back with the second half, and I have a bunch of other questions here that I'm going to ask you. I really want to make sure that we get you on record and talk about some of these important issues. So, I appreciate everything so far. It's going really, really great. Thank you, Kelly.
Hang in there, Kelly. Yeah. PRMI Mortgage, primeres.com/Alpine. Hey, if you're looking to buy, refi, or if you're just considering a reverse mortgage, you can call our local mortgage guy that you can trust. Call Chris Wiley at PRMI Mortgage. For nearly 25 years, Chris has been helping local San Diegans with all their mortgage needs. They make it easy. They can work with a friendly, expert team that will help you get the best deal on mortgages. Call Chris Wiley at 619-722-1303 or just go to primeres.com/Alpine.
All right, we're talking to Kelly Martinez, candidate for San Diego County Sheriff, endorsed by San Diego County Gun Owners. Kelly, you've been asked a lot in some of your interviews on the hot button topic of the day, which is ghost guns. It seems to be the issue of the day for anti-gunners, and there's just a whole big discussion going on around it. What's your opinion on ghost guns, and what's your opinion on crime statistics involving guns in general?
Well, I think everyone's recognizing that we do have an increase in violence in our country right now. We have, and some of that increase involves gun violence. It's important to focus on the individuals that are committing those crimes, not the acts themselves. The individuals are what's important and where we can prevent those crimes. So, that really begins with taking guns away from criminals. I'm not going after law-abiding citizens. I'm going after criminals who have guns, and that's where we need to focus. It's necessary to take those guns away from the criminals to stop the gun violence.
I appreciated your perspective on KUSI, where you said similar. You basically were focused on criminals. The entire context of your job in 37 years, you're dealing with criminals. You're not going after the law-abiding, which is another reason I think people need to treat the sheriff's race a little bit differently, because it's the policymakers like the assemblymen and women and state senators they're the ones that are going after law-abiding citizens. They're the ones that are, making laws that apply to the law-abiding. You're the sheriff. You're going after criminals, and I think you've done a very good job of distinguishing that, distinguishing between, hey, look, I want dangerous criminals that's who I'm going after. I'm not going after the law-abiding, and I truly appreciate that. So when elected, what are your priorities going to be?
So the number one priority for myself and for most law enforcement agencies right now is to hire staff. We're all really short-staffed, critically short-staffed, and we can't continue to keep our community safe or manage the jails without enough staff. So that's really key right now. It's also important that we invest in the jails. We need a lot of renovations and infrastructure upgrades to our jails, and that's going to help keep our staff and the individuals in our custody safe. And it's not new that I have always prioritized public safety and protecting victims of crime. So
Kelly, this is Dave. My question to you is, it's fine and good. The administration has finally realized they're going to have to dump some money into law enforcement. But what is going to cause somebody coming out of college or that's at the age to become a police officer to make that step? Because it's not about money. It's about the way they're being treated, I think.
No, you're right. We can't really win the salary wars, and that's what I keep telling, my recruiters and my hiring folks, is that we need to be the better place to work. We need to make sure that people understand that they have value, that they're respected, that their jobs count, and that they matter. And, most of us go into this job to help our communities and to be the difference in our communities and to make our communities safer. So, we really need to ping on those motivators and those things that matter. And then, obviously people need to be compensated well, but they need to be supported by their communities and their government and their sheriff. So we're doing all of those things with the sheriff's department.
So the next most popular question I got, which I really want to make sure that we cover after CCWs, has to do with gun violence restraining orders. I have heavily criticized one of your opponents for and I don't think this distinction has really been realized enough and explained enough, but I've heavily criticized one of your opponents for not just executing gun violence restraining orders, but spreading them and making them basically standard operating procedure in different law enforcement offices across the state, different departments and law enforcement departments. What's your view on gun violence restraining orders?
Well, I think what's important to understand is why the gun violence restraining orders or the red flag laws exist. So, we had two really horrible incidents reported today. One was in Buffalo, New York, and another one in Laguna Hills, where there were numerous people shot and killed. And I've responded to two of those mass shootings during my career as well. One was Santana High School, and one was the Chabad shooting in Poway. I think it was 3 years ago now. And it's really terrible what the families go through, and my heart goes out to all of them, the victims. And I understand that fear and the chaos those situations create, and the desire to prevent gun violence through legislation. But, we need to stop the gun violence, and I don't think GVROs should be standard operating procedure. There are a lot of tools that law enforcement can use to take guns away from criminals. Prohibited persons should not have guns. People with illegal controlled substances, certain incidences with mental illness, domestic violence, and felons, they should not have guns, and that will help us prevent violence if we follow those prohibited persons laws and other things. And I'm really, as I said before, just focused on criminals and criminal acts to lessen the violent crime increases that we're seeing right now.
And that's the law. That's the law. You were talking about prohibited people, not having firearms. That's the law. The problem with gun violence restraining order, and particularly gun violence restraining orders, and the problem with spreading them, is that they're taking guns away from people that haven't been convicted, or in some cases haven't been accused of breaking the law, and making those. And they were originally, as you said, designed. It was out of the desire to try to prevent some of these really highly emotional, incidences where multiple people are killed, and we all want to stop those. We all want to be a part of that. But taking guns away from people that haven't convicted a crime, that's not the answer, and certainly not using them as designed. The gun violence restraining orders, they're designed to be red flag laws. Not using them as designed, rather using them as standard operating procedures, even worse. It's even worse. Now, you said you were in the police, a deputy for 37 years, right? 37 plus?
Right, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So have you ever had any problem with the law or in any way taking guns from dangerous criminals?
Oh, absolutely not. I've spent, as you said, almost 4 decades in this job. I've seen a lot of crime, and I'm dedicated to protecting victims and just taking guns away from criminals. And that's necessary to protect people. We can prevent a lot of crime if we get in front of that stuff. So.
And you've been endorsed by a lot of different people with a lot of different political views. You've been endorsed by people like the mayor in San Diego, Todd Gloria, and Supervisor Joel Anderson, and those two have very different political views. They're not on the same page, on anything, except they both agree that you're the most qualified for the job. Some of the people that have endorsed you are big fans of CCWs. Some of the people that have endorsed you are not big fans. When you're elected, what's your plan for CCWs in San Diego?
I'm really proud of our CCW program as it is right now. It's efficient. It works the way that it should, and I stand by it. We have, as I said, an efficient system where applicants are screened. They attend training on safe handling of a firearm. And I think the background check we do and everything ensures that people who are issued CCWs are qualified to have them. And I'll continue to support and defend our current process. But
some of the people that have endorsed you who don't like CCWs, can your views be changed on issuing CCWs by those who have endorsed you and don't like CCWs?
I think it's important to understand that when you're endorsed by someone, it's because, as you said before, that they believe you're the right candidate for the job, that you're the most qualified and experienced. And I think that's why I've earned the endorsements I've gotten. I think that's why there's such a broad range of endorsements, as you said, people from very different political views. But I really stand by the process that we've got now, and I don't think my views will change on that.
So since COVID a couple of years ago, it's been a really interesting and complicated world, especially for law enforcement. What did you learn?
Well, the pandemic has been extremely challenging for law enforcement. I learned that law enforcement's not the entity to enforce public health orders. We're short-staffed. We have public safety obligations and priorities that we really need to focus on. And I don't want to task highly trained deputy sheriffs to enforce mask mandates, for instance. So.
Wow. Yeah. Amen to that.
Yeah, no kidding.
Any regrets?
Not too many. Just, I regret that we weren't able to. We were so busy with the pandemic and all of the social unrest and everything that we were trying to manage and handle that our staff has really suffered. Everybody got fatigued and some of the, morale went down. So we're building all that back up again. We're getting back to where we were before. We had to let go of some of the things that make people feel good, some of our recognition for our employees and things like that were more, gathering focused, promotions and, ceremonies and things like that have started back up again. I'm really happy to say we're having a graduation ceremony this week that's going to be much more back to normal. That's going to help us get back to where we were. So,
well, I got to tell you, the people in licensing, which is really, that's the most amount of contact I have. Fortunately, that's the most amount of contact I have with the sheriff's department or the folks in licensing. They're wonderful. If there's anything you can do to reward them, and I get nothing but positive feedback from the now thousands of new CCWs that have been issued. I get nothing but positive feedback from applicants. They tell me, oh, they're great, they're helpful. Even back when there was a really long wait, they still had they're still very complimentary of the clerks in licensing. So if there's anything you can do, there's an employee of the month parking spot or anything you can do now or after the election, please do, because they've just been absolutely wonderful. I really, truly appreciate it.
The best way to really help them when they're at a restaurant, buy them a breakfast, buy them lunch.
There you go.
They're totally blown away when you do it.
I tried, to be honest with you, I was like, gosh, we should.
They're not going to eat spaghetti from Denny's. They're not going to do it. I'm telling you.
It's really good. You got to try it.
No, it's not.
I was like, let's send them a bunch of pizzas and just thank them. And they're like, nope, can't do anything like that. Not even close.
Yeah.
That's a no-no.
The the thank you goes a long way, and
Yeah.
the appreciation. I know you've complimented our licensing staff a number of times, and they really do believe in good customer service, and I see that across the board with all of our deputies, all of our staff. It's hard when you're understaffed and overworked, but
Yep.
they're doing a good job.
So I live in Alpine, and I can't thank the sheriff department enough. I
Yeah,
just
right.
can't.
So last question. We talked about some controversial stuff, things that people wanted to know. What are you most proud of in your career?
You know, this may sound a little corny, but we've never had this happen in our history. So I'm proud to be the first woman to achieve the rank of undersheriff in this county, and I'd be even more proud to be the first female sheriff. But most importantly, I know that I'm the most experienced and qualified person for the next sheriff. So I really appreciate you for highlighting this race and for endorsing and supporting me. That's great.
Thank you, Kelly. What's your website?
Yeah, what's your website?
Kelly Martinez for sheriff.com.
And we have a pretty good track record. If we endorse you, there's a good chance you'll make it. So you'll owe Michael a spaghetti dinner at Denny's.
Not me. There's a lot of people involved. Not
that
I wouldn't go have spaghetti with you, Kelly. That sounds delicious, but I'm just saying.
It's got to be terrible.
It's actually really good.
It can't be. All right. Thank you very much, Sheriff. We'll talk to you down the road.
Yeah, thank you both. Have a good night.
Boy, do we live in a time where the mainstream media and politicians are trying to eliminate your ability to defend yourself. Well, California gun rosters only stops you, the law-abiding gun owners, from having the newest, safest, most reliable handguns. The assault weapons have only stops you, the law-abiding gun owners, have from having the most popular, easy-to-use rifle to protect yourself and your loved ones. Even the high-capacity mag ban only limits you, the law-abiding gun owners, from having more than 10 rounds. Criminals and the government don't have that limit. So help us restore and defend the Second Amendment. Hit that like and subscribe button and share this show with all your friends.
All right, everybody. So what's the time for? It's time for Action Jackson's not here, so I got to figure out how to read this question myself. Action, I hope you're out there listening, bud.
He's with Flash Gordon.
Did you see that picture?
No, I didn't.
He's with Flash. What?
Literally?
Yeah, there's a picture of him on his Instagram with Flash Gordon.
I'll be darned.
Are you serious? Did you just say that randomly?
Well, it's because it says right here at the bottom, how is your picture with Flash Gordon?
Yeah, I was so jealous. So Flash Gordon.
Flash Gordon is my idol.
He lives here in San Diego.
He does not.
I swear he does.
The savior of the universe?
He's for every one of us.
Yeah, but see, I'm from the old Flash Gordon back in the 50s.
Oh, geez, Dave.
Yeah, you used to be able to watch it during intermissions. It's if you were a good attendance.
No, this is the real Flash Gordon in 1981, I think.
Oh.
Quarterback, New York Jets.
I digress.
All right. Anyway, I feel like I'm the only guy in San Diego that's never met Flash Gordon, and I also feel like I'm the only guy in San Diego that cares. I really want to meet him.
Well,
all right.
We'll hook you up.
Good. All right. Hey, Sam, you there?
Yeah, how are you guys?
Good. Do you have an opinion on Flash Gordon?
Not a particularly strong opinion. I saw the movie when I was a kid. It was all right.
All right. Good. Nice. All right. So we have every week we quiz my nephew, Sam the Gunman. If you send in a question and we use it on the air, you get a hat or a shirt. If you stump my nephew, we're going to get a special prize. Last time we gave tickets to Gun Prom. Gun Prom coming up June 18th.
Yeah.
If you want to join us at Gun Prom and have a lot of fun, go to gunprom.com. Buy tickets for as little as $99. It's a good time. Join us at Gun Prom. Okay, Sam, here we go. This is Miguel from Huntington Beach writes in. He wants to know what makes the Altor 9mm unique.
Who is that? Miguel from where?
Huntington Beach.
Miguel from Huntington Beach. Thanks for writing in. The Altor 9mm. I hope I'm thinking of the right gun here. This made a big splash in the firearm media a couple of years ago. It's basically this is the single shot pistol, right? That thing, the really cheap one.
You tell me. But I think I think you're on the right track. Yeah,
you're on the right track.
So it's this really it was designed to be basically as inexpensive as possible. And I mean, it's fun to make fun of Taurus and high point pistols for being not of particularly high build quality. But this is on entirely another level. It's a single shot 9mm or I think 380 pistol. The trigger is like you hold back the striker and then release the trigger and it releases the striker. It doesn't even have a proper sear in it. The frame is made of injection molded plastic, and I think the only metal components are the breech block and the striker and the barrel. And it was supposedly designed for executing wounded animals.
Is that? I didn't realize there was such a big need.
I didn't either.
So they designed it for like I don't even know who executes wounded animals.
Well, if you run over a skunk,
right, and you want to get
you don't want to back over it.
Yeah,
you just walk out and shoot it.
So they should just start. They just get all the major car manufacturers just include one in the glove compartment.
Exactly. That's what I do.
I really wonder who that was sold to.
Are they still selling them?
I don't know, because I would imagine that most livestock ranchers in the United States probably already own a better gun. This is the United States. So I kind of yes, I'm all for people with limited means to be able to obtain a firearm to defend themselves.
Right.
But you get to a certain point in terms of poor quality firearms where for people with legitimate need, it's probably doing more harm than good to give them the illusion of this really cheap gun that they think they can effectively defend themselves with. And on the other side of that, it creates a more robust market for those who want to obtain firearms illegally.
Plus,
so I don't like these kind of Saturday night special zip guns.
So you don't sell those at your store?
We do not.
Plus, it's a single shot 9mm, and one shot of 9mm is 1/16 the amount of 9mm that you need, if you ask any Glock guy. Okay, so it says here, single shot firearms are simple, but the Altor, I think I'm saying that right, is simpler than most. It consists of 6 parts in total and looks like a hot glue gun. Another unique feature is that it is a quasi-slam fire gun. When you pull the trigger fully to the rear, the gun doesn't fire. Only when you release the trigger is it set to fire. Interestingly, this trigger takes part of the human element out of it. You can't fudge your trigger pull. Oh, that is kind of interesting. Pair that with the fixed barrel, and the gun is surprisingly accurate. Once you get used to the trigger, it's easy to score tight little groups. Although, you got one shot, so that's one hole is a pretty tight group.
Yeah.
All right, that's awesome, man.
That's a win.
Correct. Good job. You saved me tickets to Gun Prom yet again. Miguel from Huntington Beach will send you. Actually, Miguel from Huntington Beach, we're going to send you Orange County gun owners stuff.
There you go.
Yeah, and look on all the websites: San Diego County gun owners, Orange County gun owners, Inland Empire gun owners. We now have our shop up and running. You'll be able to buy San Diego County gun owner stuff. Orange County gun owner stuff is coming. Same with Inland Empire, and then we also have. Sam, we also have a Gun Owners Radio T-shirt that will be revealed at a later date.
At the prom.
Yeah. Well, probably. I don't know. Maybe. But it'll be revealed at a later date.
Get your sewing machine out.
So, Sam, you just took a trip somewhere. You were on a field trip. Where did you go?
Yeah, I was on a field trip. Some of you in the listening audience may know that I moonlight as a freelance writer for Leatherneck Magazine, the magazine of the Marine Corps. And a trade show took place this past week in Washington, D.C. called Modern Day Marine. And it's basically, as the name suggests, it's an expo for all sorts of companies in the military-industrial complex working on all sorts of stuff that the Marine Corps is already buying or that they want to sell to the Marine Corps and hopefully get contracts for. So not just firearms and parts and accessories, but also web gear and vehicles and all sorts of interesting stuff like that.
Wow. What'd you see?
Yeah, was it cool?
Yeah, it was very cool. I'm actually sort of in the middle of doing a quick write-up on kind of a sampler of all the interesting stuff we saw. But
give us a sample of your sample.
Okay. I talked to the guys at Trigicon. They were really nice. They Of course, they make excellent optics for probably anyone who's ever used a Trijicon scope probably knows that the glass is excellent and the tubes themselves are almost bomb-proof. I talked to
Trigicon's big. Their big scope for the Marine Corps was Trigicon's the ACOG, right?
Yes, they do make the ACOG, known in Marine Corps service as the RCO and the MDO. They have a couple of different ones.
It is amazingly clear. The glass on an ACOG is amazingly clear.
Oh yeah, it's incredible. It's on a whole other level.
What were they featuring? Do you remember?
Yeah, they had a whole bunch of stuff, kind of a sampler of their whole product line. I took a look through one of their low-power variable optics that they've started selling to the Marines called the SDO. It's a variant of their VCOG 1 to 8 by 24. Same great glass, same very robust build quality, or so it seemed. I mean, I didn't slam the thing against a concrete wall to test it.
You didn't do that. Okay, good.
Pretty impressive stuff.
It's a good way to not get invited back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else? What's something else that was really impressive that you saw?
Lots of really lightweight belt-fed machine guns, which, I mean, first of all, that's really cool because belt-fed machine guns are usually really heavy. As those of you who carried one in military service can definitely attest to, M60s, M240s, 249s.
Yep.
They're pretty chunky,
Yep.
and a few different companies are working on much lighter ones. It's also kind of funny because the Marine Corps has started to move away from that concept, but the technology was interesting.
So they're trying to fulfill all your lightweight
dreams,
belt-fed machine gun needs.
What kind of vehicles were on display? I just have to ask.
We actually saw a lot of unmanned vehicles or optionally manned vehicles. There are a few different companies working on trying to create some kind of a multi-purpose vehicle that you don't need to put a person inside of, and if you can take the person out of it, then you can really simplify a lot of things.
Sure.
You're training for remote operators. It's safer because the person operating it is not actually inside of it. You can make the whole thing smaller and more compact because you don't need a seat and you don't need all those controls, and so you can have this way to remotely move supplies around.
Cool. All right, buddy. Thanks again. That was a wonderful show. As usual, you have a wonderful week, and we'll talk to you next week.
You too. Thanks for having me on, and thanks everyone for listening.
All right. Hey, folks, subscribe to our show. Give us a 5-star review. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify. And please support all our great sponsors, San Diego County Gun Owners, the Dillon Law Group, PRMI Mortgage, Sage Street Digital Marketing, Seal One, Leo Hamill, Fine Jewelry, San Diego Flight Training International. Big thanks to Michael Schwartz and Brendan Thomas right here on FM 96.1 AM 1170.
The Answer.